Good morning, everyone. This is Mighty Stream. Today is April the 21st. I am amazed at how the month of April is flying by. Well, I want to wish you a good morning. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing excellent. I'm looking forward to doing the Just for Today for April 21st with you. I am brought to you by Hope Through Navigation, and this is the Hood Recovery Services Program. And Hood stands for Hope Offered on Demand. And so I'm looking forward to creating content that you will be able to have access at any time of the day. If you need to reach me, reach out to me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Well, this is going to be exciting because I have not had a chance. I don't even know the title. I did pull it up, but I did not look at the title. And so this is always good for me to have to think on my feet, right? Okay, exciting here. This one is entitled Fear. Let me read it to you. It says, "We have found that we have no choice except to completely change our old ways of thinking or go back to using." Basic text, page 22. Many of us find that our old ways of thinking were dominated by fear. We were afraid that we wouldn't be able to get our drugs or that there wouldn't be enough. We feared discovery, arrest, and incarceration. Further down the list were fears of financial problems, homelessness, overdose, and illness. And our fear controlled our actions. The early days of recovery weren't a great deal different for many of us. Then, too, fear dominated our thinking. What if staying clean hurts too much? We asked ourselves, what if I can't make it? What if the people in NA don't like me? What if NA doesn't work? The fear behind these thoughts can still control our behavior, keeping us from taking the risk necessary to stay clean and grow. It may seem easier to resign ourselves to certain failure, giving up before we start, than to risk everything on a slim hope. But that kind of thinking leads only to relapse. To stay clean, we must find the willingness to change our old ways of thinking. What has worked for other addicts can work for us, but we must be willing to try it. We must trade in our old cynical doubts for new affirmations of hope. When we do, we'll find it's worth the risk. Just for today, I pray for the willingness to change my old ways of thinking and for the ability to overcome my fears. Wow. That reading, there is a lot going on in this reading for today. And I don't think that I will be able to unpack all of it, but what I do want to say about the quote at the top, we have found that we had no choice to accept to completely change our old ways of thinking or go back to using. I want to verify that that is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely the case. Fear can be paralyzing, and fear can cause us to miss appointments. It can cause us to not show up. But on the other spectrum, it can cause us to jump into things that we aren't ready for. Fear of failure can cause us sometimes to not even start to improve ourselves. But for some people, it can also put us into overdrive, and we don't have the foundation sometimes to do some of the things that we undertake. Now, I do believe that I can set my mind to anything and be successful, but there's also this component of developing and growing naturally, organically, and allowing ourselves to come to a ripeness or a readiness for whatever we're trying to undertake. And sometimes fear of missing something, fear of giving the appearance of not understanding or knowing, right? Fear of what people might think of us sometimes will cause us to jump into things that we're not grounded for. Our egos are in no way, shape, or form ready to be inflated with the weight and responsibility of certain titles and job responsibilities. But sometimes fear of what it will look like if we say, I need some training, or I need some education in that, or can we do a little bit of one-on-one so I can learn that and get a little bit more grounded before you completely turn that over to me. So there's this ideal that fear is disabling. Fear can also be enabling in a negative sense, right? Causing us to jump into things that we know, goodness, well, we're not ready for. So the point here is that if you have fear of the future and it's keeping you stuck, that is a problem. I'm not saying jump into positions and responsibilities that you're not ready for, but I am saying make sure that when you move forward, that you know and understand that anything worth having is worth working for. You know, again, fear, that acronym FEAR, right? It can stand for face everything and recover, or face everything and run, right? And when we face anything, we want to be realistic, right? We want to be realistic. And I think that's the beauty for me. That's the beauty of being grounded spiritually today, having a relationship with God today, having a relationship with a few significant individuals that can speak to me and cause me to have pause. They can speak to me in a manner that is constructive criticism, and I'd be totally receptive to it because we have history. That's today. People that I had history when I was using with, they couldn't say anything to me because I always assumed that whatever angle they were bringing to me was negative. Right? I always thought negatively. In fact, I want to go back to this Just for Today reading and focus on that little section there. It says, we must trade in, right here, I'm highlighted in this blue, beautiful blue. It says, we must trade in our old cynical doubts for new affirmations of hope. When we do, we find it's worth the risk. And then it says, I pray for the willingness to change my old ways of thinking and for the ability to overcome my fears. You know, and I just want to say that it's a work in progress. Today, I might find myself, like there's a couple things going on today, and I find myself kind of in the back of my mind. I'm not focused on the things that I need to be, right? I'm focused on other agendas that really aren't my personal agenda, right? And so I'm kind of forecasting and trying to make sure that I cross my T's and dot my I's. And so I would say there's a subtle fear. But in actuality, anything that I undertake today, I am very much aware that I have to be centered spiritually and that I have to have a prayer life, right? And if it's not realistic, it's not spiritual for me. So I know the task in front of me is doable, right? Whether or not I'm going to shine brightly or not shine at all is irrelevant. I know that I am built for the task, and I know that I have what it takes to handle it in a manner that is appropriate, right? And conducive to the well-being of anyone that I'm going to be interacting with later on today. Uh, do I have other things I want to do? Absolutely. I have some things for class that I want to take care of, and they will be taken care of before I do any of this other stuff because this is important to my agenda, to me, right? So I think sometimes we get that confused. Just because it's not necessarily what you want to focus on right in the here and now doesn't mean that it's not beneficial for you, but you also want to make sure that when you move into it that you're grounded and that you're ready. Don't allow fear of what people think about you cause you to take on something you're not ready for. But also the balance, the practicality of it is don't allow fear to stop you from increasing yourself. It's just like lifting weights. I went to the gym today for the first time in a long time. I went to Planet Fitness instead of the YMCA. I went to the gym realizing that I was going to have to get a card so that they can give me a card so I can just sign in. I don't like having a QR on my phone, right? I don't like anything reading my phone other than me, right? So I don't want a QR code as a photo on my phone. So I don't want that app. And I knew that I only had so much time to be in the gym. And I knocked it out the park. I stayed for the full 30 minutes that I knew that I had. And I was back home like 10 minutes to 7, waking the boys up and taking care of the other things that I have to do. But, something just hit me last night. And I was like, you know what? You are allowing all these other things, all these other purposes for the family and business, all these other things, even education, supersede your physical health. And if you don't take care of your own physical health, you won't be in a position to do any of those things. Right. And so I took time, I forced myself to not just get up and have coffee and do other things, but go and take some time out. Even though it was difficult physically, it stretched me. I knew that the stretching, eventually I would be stretching into 45 minutes and then I'll stretch into an hour. And if I continue to be consistent, eventually I will stretch right on into my bodybuilding again, right? Right into jogging outdoors again. If I'm consistent, I will be back where I want to be as far as my physical health. And it's the same way with anything else. Practice makes perfect. And I want to encourage you today to stretch yourself. I want you to stretch. I want you to know what it is that you feel you need to do. And then take the first step, if possible, it's early enough in the day, take the first step towards that. Many of you listening, you want to go back to school, but you're so busy working and making that good money that you're used to making. Some of you are working more than one job, trying to make sure that bank account is padded and that you can maintain the level of living that you've had over the years. But I want to say to you, if it's in your heart to go back, the only way that you're ever going to go back to the university is to make the first step to go. Make the phone call, set up the appointment to meet with an academic advisor. Take the test that they give you to figure out where you're at in different areas so that when they start you out with classes, they're making sure that these are things that you can handle, that will stretch you, but that you can handle them, right? If you're not good at English and you can't pass the English test, right? Doesn't mean, like for me, I used to think that meant that I couldn't go at all. But it didn't mean that. It just meant that they want to make sure they put you in the class that you need to build your skill back up. So when I applied to go to college and they tested me with my writing and English, they said that this is the type of test that they would put up on the wall if they could. Like, you completely ace this. You will be able to handle writing papers and reading, right? You will be able to handle college reading. However, they told me your math, You don't need to start again, but we're going to put you in one of the mid-grade levels of math and see how you do with that, because you have a class that is a prereq in order for you to get your associates, but right now you probably will not pass that. And even with the math that they gave me, when I finally moved into, I want to say it was like math 115 or something, which was the prereq to get my associates, I failed it the first time. I bombshelled. I cried, the teacher cried. It was intense. And I don't know where I dropped the ball on the math piece, because I used to in high school be very good at math. But she said, you know what? Take it again, and I'll make sure that I'm your professor, right? Uh, and I'm sure this time together we'll work to make sure that you get this. And do you know I aced her class? I went from failing her class to acing it. She didn't give me any passes. I took the same test. I did the same work as anyone else, but I aced her class. And on graduation, I will remember like it was yesterday. There were two professors that stood up and shouted for me and made sure that I knew that they were excited about me walking. It was one teacher that was teaching race and ethnicity, ethnic relations. And it was her. She was the one that was teaching math 115. And she was just so excited to see someone that was just crushed because they had failed her class succeed. And so I just want to say to you, you can do it. You can do it. There are no failures here, right? The only real failure is when you fail or it's not successful and you don't give it another go. You just quit trying. As long as you're trying, giving it your best, there's no failure in that. And no one will ever say that to you. And anyone that does say that to you, that's just not kind, right? So we disregard that kind of negativity. Today, I want you to focus on positive thoughts. Acknowledge when they come, when they're negative, and turn them around in that moment. Well, I thank you for joining me. I can't wait to talk to you until tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a great day, but let's stay right in today. Talk to you tomorrow now. Good day.